What's going on, man? Welcome back to the basement. I'm Ron, and today we're going to be going over 3 running backs that disappointed last year and kind of talk through whether or not they're going to be bouncing back big in fantasy football for 2021. Now, before we get into that, make sure you get on below, subscribe. It is literally 10:22 p.m. right now. I don't know if it'll focus. Little kind of like what the beauty bottles do. I don't know. 10:23 p.m. right now. I recorded a live stream earlier with you guys, and we're back at it again, pumping one more video out. Now, we're going to probably have one less video out this week than we usually do, but it's because I'm dropping a massive update on Patreon, and I'm telling you, this is probably the best deal in all of fantasy. I'm not even saying like from a cheesy sales pitch perspective like a lot of these industry guys. In terms of fantasy football, I don't know what more you can get for $5 a month. You have my rankings in Dynasty and Redraft. You got 1 QB and Superflex across both of those. Exclusive spots in the Discord. You can literally ask me one-on-one for trade advice. I'm telling you, go out there, grab that Patreon subscription. I'm going to be doing a big update where I go through all of the rankings on Dynasty and Redraft, so I wanted to pump out as much content as possible today, yesterday. These are going to come out later in the week, but Wednesday and Thursday of this week, I'll be grinding out those rankings. Now, I'm going to stop rambling. We're going to get into the video. Let's go. All right, I didn't turn on the AC early enough. It's going to be a little bit sweaty, a little bit musty down here. But, you know, I think that's the perfect environment for this video. If you guys have been following along with the channel, the OG subscribers have been watching the videos. We just dropped a video where I pretty much broke down using numbers that we need to stop it with the fantasy PTSD. Just because a player has burned you in the past doesn't mean that he's going to burn you in the future. We found this using win rates in that video. I believe it was called, like off my board on the thumbnail. It's stop making this mistakes. Or stop making this mistake. And the whole premise was that you can't let players that burn you in the past affect your stance on drafting them in the year of current. Now, I want to do a little bit of a note on win rates. We used win rates in that video. Best ball win rates are over 1,000 teams. And let's say David Montgomery, for example, has a 10% win rate. Then 10% of the players who drafted Demont won their fantasy league. Now, the average win rate is going to be 8.3% because that's just 1 out of 12. You know, 1 out of every 12 people are winning their league on average. And in that video, we specifically found that if you are drafted in the first 5 rounds, just because you had a poor win rate in the year prior, doesn't mean you can't be a league winner in that next season. We literally found that a player's previous win rate had no correlation on their next year win rate. So one more time, whether or not a player busted for you in the previous year, it had no impact on said player's ability to be a league winner in that next year. So I wanted to use this logic of guys that have burned us in the past to find bounce back running back candidates. So using this logic, I looked at the running backs that had a 8.3% win rate or worse and are going inside the top 5 rounds of underdog best ball drafts. Now, I just want to say real quick, if you're not using underdog ADP, you're a bozo. I can't stand these half-baked takes on Twitter. I've been seeing them all the time. It's like, bro, how is T. Higgins wide receiver 33 right now? I'm going to be printing money. My guy, you're just using Fantasy Pros ADP taken from 12-year-olds that mock draft on free websites like NFL.com, all put in a composite, and it's not helping you get any better at fantasy football. You're using these, you're like trying to exploit ADPs that aren't even accurate. On Underdog, there's actual money on the line. Higgins is like the wide receiver 23 at ADP. The ADP is sharp, and that's the best place where you can practice for your league. So you go in there, you draft against sharks, and when comes time for your home league, they're not going to be taking T. Higgins at the end of the 4th. They're going to be taking T. Higgins at the end of the 5th, early 6th. So a lot of these guys that you're used to getting in the 4th round and 5th round, they're going to start falling to you at crazy values. I'm already seeing it on Sleeper. I'm getting Michael Gallup and Tyler Boyd at like 3 rounds of discount because I just know, okay, these are the players that the sharp players are drafting in round 6. So when you sign up for Underdog, it's a best ball fantasy football app. I'm telling you, I'm 208 drafts deep. I wouldn't recommend it to you if it wasn't dope. So when you go on there and you deposit, use promo code RON for free $25 bonus right in the account. Right in the account, $25 just because you know me. And that's all because of you guys supporting the channel, putting all the thumbs up. Now you guys are getting those benefits. Now back to this list of running backs. We have Saquon, we have McCaffrey, we have Zeke, Mixon, Miles Sanders, Austin Eckler, J.K. Dobbins, CEH, Nick Chubb, and Josh Jacobs. Now we've already covered a few of these guys, And the guys that are obvious guys that are bounce back candidates, I don't want to recycle a video. I could have hopped on here, talked about Saquon and Austin Eckler. Those are guys I really like as bounce back candidates. That's already my league winning upside video. Guys that I don't think will bounce back or won't bounce back enough for me to want to draft them at ADP. Nick Chubb and Ezekiel Elliott. I put those in my do not draft these running backs video. So now we have a few RBs to pick from. And the first running back I want to talk about is going to be Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Now, I'm going to be honest with you guys, CEH might as well be an honorable mention. Somebody give that man a trophy for my league-winning upside running back video. I almost put him up over Eckler. I really wanted to put him in that video. I like Clyde Edwards-Helaire this year, CEH. So this is a dope excuse to talk about the boy, CEH. And he's going at the 210 right now as the RB14 on Underdog. And in this range, the questions I'm asking are, can this guy be a legendary upside running back? Can he have the season named after him? And can he be a first-round pick in that next season? That's huge. You want the guys that are going to be next year's first-round picks. That means that you got a player that paid off. That's a thought process I really try to get into. Because if he doesn't have that upside in his range of outcomes, then why would I risk a running back who gets injured and busts all the time when I can literally just grab Justin Jefferson or A.J. Brown or DK Metcalf in his same draft spot? This is what we need to ask ourselves with running backs in these first 2 rounds, because as I covered in my league-winning running back video, running backs bust at a 40% clip in the first 2 rounds. And the only way to justify that downside is by grabbing someone that has that RB1 overall upside. And I think that CEH is one of the few running backs in that round 1 and round 2 area where it's worth betting on. The thing about Clyde Edwards-Helaire is that he did burn us last year, but if we're going to be honest with ourselves and we're going to really do some self-reflecting here, his first round ADP was kind of stupid. It was kind of dumb. I get that he was a first-round running back drafted by the Chiefs, handpicked by Patrick Mahomes or whatever you want to tell yourself. Here's the thing. If we're taking a running back in the first round of a fantasy football draft, they probably, if they're going to be a rookie, they probably should be drafted in the top 5, like a Saquon, like Ezekiel Elliott, guys that are supposed to be these generational prospects. It's such a, like if Josh Jacobs goes to the Chiefs and there's just a lot of these late first round running backs are not even close to the same kind of lock that Saquon and Ezekiel Elliott are. But let's get past that tangent for a second. And the thing that I love about Clyde Edwards-Helaire going into year 2, he's going in the late second round, and I don't think a single thing has changed from the situation that got him drafted in the mid-first last year. The Chiefs added no one to the running back core. I like Jerick McKinnon. Jerick McKinnon's my guy, but he's probably dust. He literally went to IR last year. Shout out Davis Maddock. He was talking about it. He literally went to IR last year with dead legs. That was literally what it said on his little Roto-World blurb, is he went to IR with dead legs. I don't even know what that means. CH is still the RB1 on the Chiefs, and it's pretty much the same bet as last year that we were making, but at a discount. Instead of having to pay the 6th overall pick, now we're paying the back end of the first. And we want to target this kind of phenomenon, if you will. That's a big word. In the last video, we found that 4 out of 5 of the players to ever return 20% win rates outside of round 1 disappointed in the year prior. And this feels really similar to Todd Gurley. If you remember correctly, with Todd Gurley, he underperformed in year 2. And that was supposed to be wheels up, Todd Gurley's going to go crazy. They draft Jared Goff. Jared Goff sucks. Todd Gurley isn't great. He goes in the second round the next year. That's 2017. McVay comes in, revamps the fucking offense. Then Todd Gurley went crazy, league winner kind of thing. And that's what we could see with CEH because, he disappointed in year 1. And I'll say I'm not in love with his talent profile, but at the end of the day, he's a first-round pick at running back. He has an all-purpose skill set. He catches passes. He just put up 1,000-plus yards from scrimmage at 21 years old. They get rid of Sammy Watkins, so the Chiefs now, they don't have a clear passing option behind Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill. And we could see CEH kind of fall in line as that third receiving option. When we're talking about RB1 type ceilings, there's enough passing volume in this offense after Tyreek and Kelce where we could see CEH get 65, 75. We want to talk absolute ceiling, 90 targets. He could get there. And on top of getting a lot of targets in the passing game, he's also now going to be running behind what PFF has as their 7th ranked offensive line unit heading into 2021. They add Orlando Brown, they add Joe Thuney, and I think they're kind of overcompensating for that Super Bowl loss where Mahomes was just out there with an absolute band of brothers up front, just throwing sidearm and getting tossed around in the Super Bowl. So they really made it a point to improve the offensive line, and that's going to help CH a lot. And what really puts him over the top to have that legendary upside is the touchdown upside on the Chiefs. And what I think people don't understand is, first of all, touchdown scoring isn't really a skill. Year to year, touchdowns aren't sticky. And the thing about Clyde Edwards-Helaire is he really underperformed in the touchdown department in 2020, but I think that he could really bounce back in 2021. Last year, he only scored 5 times on 217 touches, which was a crazy low 2.3% touchdown rate. The Kansas City backs with Mahomes have averaged a 7% TD rate all the years that Mahomes has been a starter. Now, don't tell me that that's just Kareem Hunt being a god. 7% TD rate came with 2 years of Kareem Hunt and then Darrell Williams 1 year. Darrell Williams actually has the highest TD rate of all those 3 seasons. So I averaged them all out, and that gives him about a 7% TD rate. If we gave CEH a 7% TD rate, he would have scored 16.5 touchdowns in 13 games last year. That's a little wild, but it just shows his crazy upside in this Chiefs offense. And if we even want to get a halfway point between the 3 running backs that average a 7% TD rate, CEH is 2.3%. If we want to meet in the middle at 4.65%, that would have given him 11 touchdowns in 13 games last year, which would have put him as the RB4 in 0.5 PPR. The RB4. Clyde, and that was just on the workload last year. If he just gets a little bit of luck in the touchdown department, regression is coming for CEH. He's going to get luckier. He's going to have light boxes, more touchdowns, upgraded offensive line. The volume is already there. CEH is a guy that I will be taking swings on at the back of the second round. I think he's a great bounce back candidate. Now, this next one, we got the poster boy for getting burned and never drafting this player again. We have Joe Mixon. Everybody out there on Twitter, I can't draft him. I've been burned too much. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I was going to come on here on my woke king shit. I was going to come on here and say, he's burned us in the past. But that's not the reason I'm fading him. I'm fading him because of XYZ. It's not because he burned us in the past. I just want to get out of that mindset. But here's the thing. I dug into the numbers today, and I'm so back in on Joe Mixon, boys. I'm so back in on Joe Mixon. I think he's a pretty good target going at the 205 as the RB12 and underdog. Now, I will admit I'm not in love with Joe Mixon. He'll probably slot in around RB12 for me, which is where he's going right now. But I might move him a little bit farther back than that 205 spot he's at right now, because I think I'd rather have DK, AJ Brown, and Justin Jefferson. But that's just because I'm kind of a whore for these young wide receivers, and I just want to stack up as many wide receivers as I can. But I think the RB12 is a great price. And when we're drafting these running backs in the first 2 rounds, like we just did with Clyde Edwards-Helaire, my mindset completely changes. Obviously, all these guys can finish as top 7, top 8, top 9 running backs in fantasy football. They can finish as RB1s. And that's just what we're looking at. That's where these guys are being priced anyways. They're only worth that selection if they can finish as the RB1 overall and post that 20% plus win rate. And at first I was going to say, what? I don't think that Joe Mixon has that in his range of outcomes, but I think I've come off this stance for a few reasons. One is that a legendary RB usually averages around 25 points per game, but in the second round you could probably still hit a 20% plus win rate with like 22 points per game. And the way that I'm saying that is because 15 points per game in round 1 is like a 5% win rate, but as you move back around and around and around, 15 points per game might be like a 20% win rate by the time you get to round 6. So a 20 points per game might only be like a 12% win rate in the first round, but if you move that back to like the back end of the second, 20 points per game might be 18-19% win rate, if that makes sense. So you can lower, you don't have to get them to 25 points per game. You could probably get them to like 22 points per game. And with these running backs that we're trying to project to 22 points per game, we want 2 things. We want projected volume and we want talent. And I tend to side on the idea that Joe Mixon is an elite talent. And I know it's hard to say that. We're 4 years into this guy's career, and he has nothing to show for it. We only have 2 1,000-yard seasons. We have an RB9 finish in 2018. He was the RB9 in points per game in 2021 or 2020 before getting hurt in week 6. Here's the thing, though. RB9 isn't legendary upside. But what I will say is that Mixon, I really do believe, is an elite talent. Mixon is, just in terms of being a prospect. And I know that it's tough to talk about a prospect when the guy's through 4 years of his career, but he has the highest yards created ever charted for an RB prospect. And that's the best data point we have available. Yards created is the most predictive stat we have for college running backs coming out of school. He has set the highest bar. Him and Saquon Barkley are the only 2 running backs drafted in the first 2 rounds to ever break a 6 yards created. And I know we're in year 5 and you guys probably don't want to hear prospect talk, but here's the thing about Mixon. Mixon has proven to be a stud by the numbers. He's had like the stoneware situation these first 4 years. He's had Andy Dalton, shitty offensive lines, shitty organization. The thing is that by the numbers, if you look a little bit deeper, he's actually shown to be a stud. In 2019, his last full season we had, he was 8th in yards created per touch, 4th in juke rate, 1st in evaded tackles, and I see no reason to believe he isn't a talented back. So when we're making his upside case, we have to understand that he is talented. You have to believe he's talented. That's what I believe. And now that brings us to his volume. He's now going into his first season without Gio Bernard taking away targets. And he's just going to see insane volume, fellas. I took Mike Clay's projections, one of the most accurate guys in the industry, and I found who has the highest amount of weighted opportunities around the league. And weighted opportunities takes into account carries, and then it values targets properly in terms of how valuable they are for fantasy scoring. Mixon is projected for the 5th highest workload in the NFL. He's getting all the volume, all of it. And because we're aiming for that ceiling, we want that 90-plus target upside. Clay has him at a 74 target pace right now. But remember, that's his median outcome. That's just like, okay, 74 targets is where he probably should be. In my opinion, I think his ceiling is probably 90-plus targets, and that's for two reasons. I know you guys are going to say that's very high. I could see him getting that 90-plus target range in that Todd Gurley area and really go crazy because Mixon, what people don't understand is Mixon was a stud receiver in college. He smashed his receiving yard market share numbers in his 2 years at school. He was genuinely up there with Kamara, Swift, Saquon Barkley type pass catcher coming out of school. Gio has just been absolutely clipping this man's wings for the past 4 years. And the Bengals offense this year, they're going to pass like crazy. So you're getting a guy who has a really good receiving skill set and then a team that wants to run a lot of plays. The league average amount of plays last year was 63.86 plays per game. The Bengals averaged 70.7 plays per game with Joe Burrow. That's 4% more than expected, and that led them to average 46.8 attempted passes per game. Zach Taylor wants to pass the ball like crazy. Mixon's going to be on the field the entire time, and I'm sure we've all seen the roto blurbs where Mixon wants to be used on all downs. Bryce Callahan's on board. The running backs coach is on board. The fucking water boy is on board. Everyone's on board to get this guy on the field, get him work, get him a sustainable workload, 3-down workhorse type skill set, type volume for this guy. And this is a guy we know is talented, or at least you can believe he's talented. I do. He's going to get all the goal line work. He's going to get all the passing game work on a super high volume offense that's going to run a lot of plays. They're going to run a lot of high tempo, a lot of passing attempts, a lot of plays in general. And the thing is that we could easily see this team have a huge TD spike. They could be a top 10, top 12 scoring offense because they could just be insanely efficient. They have Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. The passing game is going to be crazy, and what that's going to do, it's going to push the defense back, and we're going to lighten up those boxes for Mixon. You guys got to remember, Joe Mixon has never seen a light box in his life, man. He has been on a team without a quarterback, without a great passing game his entire career. So I'm all in on Joe Mixon's RB1 overall case because I think it's worth a shot in the mid to late second round. I think he genuinely has that in his range of outcomes. Now, this last one, I don't even want to talk about him. I literally might throw up talking about this guy, but I figured we'd throw him in there. We got Josh Jacobs, and he just barely disappointed last year with a 7.9% win rate after getting drafted at the 202, finished as the RB12 in points per game, and is now going at the 507 as the RB20. And because of this, he finishes as the RB12. He goes at the RB20. All of the guys in the industry, on Twitter, I guarantee you they're out there pounding the table for Josh Jacobs. They're saying, well, he's a great value. I'm going to let you guys on a little bit of a secret here. Not really. He's not really a great value. I've only drafted him 4 times in 208 underdog drafts. That's 1.9% exposure to him. And this breakdown for Josh Jacobs isn't going to have a lot of stats because I think the argument is much more theoretical than it is statistics-based. Josh Jacobs is a fine, high-end RB2. He's at most an RB2, though. He's shown he won't catch enough passes to be an actual RB1 at any point. And I know we're in the 5th round, so in theory, I should care a lot less about upside. But for me, I still do care. In these fantasy football leagues, in the 5th round, we're walking right into the RB dead zone. And the problem with running backs in that range, if the running back isn't uber talented, they have a lot of downside. They have downside with injury, and if they're not super talented, they have downside by the backup filling their role, taking away touches. And the only way a running back makes up for this downside is with upside. Running backs can offer you that legendary ceiling. They can offer you league-winning rates. But Josh Jacobs is the poster boy for the RB dead zone. When we're targeting running backs in that 3 to 6 range, that's a really dangerous spot to target RBs because that is the RB dead zone. But I'm looking for young running backs, first and second year running backs that can catch the ball. Josh Jacobs is just a guaranteed touches back. I want to stay as far away from those guys as possible. He has no ceiling. He has nothing but downside. You can draft him in the 5th round if you want. I personally, there's just no way I get there because I'd much rather have Claypool, Higgins, and Ayuk in the 5th round. Those are all wide receivers I love there. And I'd rather have Travis Etienne and Javonte Williams. And I know you might say, well, Ron, those guys aren't really locked into touches. How are you going to start them every week? here's the thing. ETN and Javonte Williams could win you leagues. Also, by the time we get to, like, when we look at just, like, projections, you know, a lot of these guys in the industry, they take their projections, they take them, and they sort them, and they use those as the rankings. Here's the thing about Javonte Williams and Travis Etienne. They might not be locked into that workload the first 1 to 5 weeks, but from weeks 8 and on, you're probably, I guarantee when we look at rest of season rankings, you're going to want to have Etienne, Javonte Williams over Josh Jacobs at that point. Josh Jacobs isn't winning you fantasy leagues. He's probably getting you, like, 6th place. That's the problem for me. Or, like, 4th place, 3rd place. That's the problem. And that's going to do it for today. Josh Jacobs is a bounce-back candidate, but not one that I'm with. So I'm on Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I'm on Joe Mixon. Josh Jacobs is a bounce-back candidate, but I'm telling you, just let somebody else draft him. Let that shit pass you by. Grab Javonte, grab Etienne, or grab one of the young ascending wide receivers. Let me know down below. Comment your favorite bounce-back. Also, let me know if you have any pushback on the guys I listed. I know a lot of you guys aren't going to like that Mixon take, but let me know what you think. And while you're down there in the comments, make sure you come up, like the video, makes the YouTube algorithm know that you've been enjoying following along, and make sure you subscribe, man. We're at like, what, 1.8 thousand subscribers. You guys have been killing it. I would love to get 2,000 by August 1st. I think we're going to miss that, though. I don't think that we'll hit that. I'd love to see it, though. And like I said, we're going to have a little bit less uploads this week because I'm doing the Patreon update. Remember, if you want to have access to my rankings, join the Patreon, because I have these kinds of factors calculated in there. I'm not just like these other industry guys. I don't sort the projections and throw them in there. I got a lot of game theory that I put into these rankings, and I'm not just going to sit down and put like 2 hours into it to some guys. When I sit down and do my rankings, I'm telling you, tomorrow is Wednesday. The next day is Thursday. I'm going to wake up at like 8 a.m. and work on these from 9 to 7 p.m. From 9 a.m. to 7 p.m., I will be grinding on these rankings. So if you want those, go down below into the description. Join the Patreon. It's going to have my redraft rankings, my dynasty rankings, 1 QB and Superflex on both of them. Tiers across the board. I'm telling you, it is the best fantasy tool that money can buy for $5. Now, I also want to say J.K. Dobbins fits this criteria of bounce back, but I don't think he did have a 6.6% win rate, so he's like technically a bounce back. I don't think he fits this criteria, and I don't think he actually really disappointed anybody last year. Like, no one has any ill will towards J.K. Dobbins. What I will say is maybe I should cover him in next week's sophomore breakdown. Let me know down below if you guys want to see me talk about J.K. Dobbins in the next sophomore dynasty, like, centric type breakdown. And that's all we got for today, man. I love you guys. Like I said, I'm going to work on the Patreon. I just did a live stream today, but I think I'll probably live stream. I'll definitely live stream later this week. The thing is that by the time you guys see this, I'll probably already have live stream, but I'll probably do a mock draft live stream, and then maybe a third live stream where I either go over like ADP risers and fallers, or like cover some trades I've done in dynasty leagues. That's all I got, man. Follow me at @RonStore_ on Twitter, and I'll see you guys in the next one.